Good morning, boys and girls. This is Mr. Fleming. I hope you're doing okay and your family's doing well. So, at any point of today's lesson, when I ask you to work out a problem, maybe you want to work ahead of me. That's perfectly fine too. I do ask you that you watch me on a couple of the first problems so that you get the hang of it, and then you can try it on your own, and then you can just check in with me and fast forward a little bit and see if you got the answers correct at any time. So today we're going to begin with our mental math. Our mental math today is rounding decimals as a review. So go ahead and choose number 1, number 2, or number 3, and go ahead and pause your video as well. All right, now let's take a look and see what our answers are and how well you did as that review there. So for 5 and 7/10 would round to 6 wholes. For 108 and 12 hundredths would round to 108 and 1/10. And then for our third one today, rounding to the nearest hundredth, that would round to 75 hundredths, or also said 0 and 75 hundredths. Go ahead and try the next problem for our mental math today. Number 1, 2, or 3, and pause the video. All right, let's go ahead and check in. For our first problem here, we should have had 64 if you chose number 1. If you chose number 2, rounded to the nearest tenth, you should have had an answer of 107 and 1/10 because the 8 is 5 or more. Remember, we always look to the right of the digits. So we'll be looking at that 8 over there. That tells us what to do with that 0, the tenths place. Let's move on to the next one. Number 3, round to the nearest hundredth, 105 thousandths, and there's a period there. It looks like I put them on all of them. That doesn't mean that's not a decimal, so round to the nearest hundredth. So because we have this 0 is in our hundredths, we look to the right. The 5 tells us what to do. Since it's 5 or more, we're going to round that 0 up to 1. And everything in front of that 0 stays the same. So our answer should be 0 and 11 hundredths. Let's go ahead and move on to the lesson today. Let's take a look at what we're doing. So today's objective, we're going to be able to divide decimals by whole numbers. Now, I know that some of us may already know how to do this. I know Reagan and Grady had a lesson on this. So some of us should be pretty familiar with this. So today, it might be a review for you. So let's go ahead and get started. You'll need your math journal, volume 2. So this is my I do. So just watch me this time for the first problem. And then for number 2, if you'd like to follow along with me, you may go ahead and do that. So we're on page 224 here in your math journal. Again, remember, if you need to pause the video at any time, may go ahead and do that. So on your math journal page, you have the problem for number 1, and then you have a bunch of boxes. I'm not going to use those boxes today just because my marker, it might be a little bit more difficult for me to fit my numbers in those boxes, but those boxes are there to help line up your digits. So I do highly recommend them, especially when dividing decimals. Because sometimes we can have our digits in the incorrect place of our quotient. So be careful of that. So you may use those. If you just want to solve them on a regular piece of notebook paper, you may as well do that. So let's take a look at number 1. So let's go ahead and cube it real quick. And I'm sorry if you hear my dogs right now. They are here. So 3 sisters set up a lemonade stand. How many sisters? 3. On Wednesday, they made $8.46 from selling lemonade. If they share the money equally, that equally is our clue word. That equally tells us what to do. In this case, we are dividing. So equally always tells us divide. How much will each also, each is that clue word, sister get? So what is our number model going to look like? So we're going to have $8.46, and I apologize if my handwriting is a little bit more sloppier than normal. It is kind of difficult to do this on using a mouse and on my computer. A little bit easier on the smartboard. So we have $8.46 divided by 3. I'm going to go ahead and estimate that. Remember, our estimation can help us a lot to make sure that our answer makes sense when we are done, right? So 8.46, we're going to just round that. I'm going to round that to 8. And then I got to think, well, what can I change that 3 to that's close to, that will go into 8? So I know that 2 goes into 8, so I'm going to make that 2. So 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Our answer should be close to 4. Now, you could have rounded it as well by keeping the 3 and making the 8.46 a 9. Would have been just fine as well. So let's go ahead and set up the problem correctly. Remember, our goal here is to get that 4, somewhere close to 4. So 8.46, and I'll give you a terrific ticket if you can tell me what that number is called. The dividend, divisor, or the quotient. That is actually the dividend. So if you guessed that correctly, you've earned your terrific ticket for today. And then the 3 is called our divisor. Now, here's the most important step when we are dividing decimals. We have to get that decimal in the right spot. So what do? If I'm dividing by a whole number, I just have to bring up that decimal straight up. That's an arrow. Straight up into my quotient. So the decimal is going to go right there. So I have, now all I have to do is simply divide. How many 3's go into 8? That would be 2. Next step in division, 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. Next step, bring it down. Now I'm bringing down the 4. How many 3's go into 24? 3 times 8. 8 times 3 is 24. Subtract. You get 0. And then last but not least, we still have that 6 to deal with. So let's go ahead and divide again. How many 3's go into 6? 3 goes into 6 2 times. And 2 times 3 equals 6. And we subtract and we get 0 as our remainder. Now I will tell you, we do not have remainders when we divide decimals. So our answer today is 2 and 82 hundredths, or specifically how much money. So that is money there that we're dealing with. So let me put a dollar sign in there. That's a one ugly dollar sign. But $2.82 each sister is going to get. But first, let's check. Is that close to our estimate? Does it check out? Yes, it does. So that works great there. Let's go ahead and move on to number 2 on the same page. Number 2 says, now you're going to have boxes again. Remember what I said about the boxes? You can use that, as well as you can pause this video at any time. Janine is building a bookshelf. She has a board that is 6 and 77 hundredths meters long. She wants to cut it into 5 pieces of equal length. Oop, I forgot, we are Cuban, aren't we? 6.77, 5 pieces that are equal. That's our clue word for division. How long will each piece be? So what is our number model? How many total meters long is the board. It is 6.77 meters long, so that's going to be our dividend. And we are dividing by 5 pieces. We want to cut that piece of wood in 5 different pieces, but making them equal, right? So let's go ahead and estimate here. So this estimation is going to be a little bit tricky, actually. 6.77. Actually, I can round to 10 if I want, but you know what? 6 and 5, those are pretty close. 5's close to 6, so I'm just going to round that down to 6, and then 5 up to 6, and I'm going to get an answer of 1 for my estimate. Our estimate's going to be 1, so our answer should be close to 1. Let's go ahead and solve this problem. Now, this problem I'm going to tell you is a little bit different, and you'll see that here in a second. So I have 6.77 divided by 5. Who can tell me the most important step when dividing decimals? That's right, Grady. It is bringing up that decimal. We have to bring up that decimal, right, into the correct spot of the quotient. So it's going to go straight up. That's why those boxes would be helpful, okay? So let's see. Let's go ahead and divide now. How many 5s go into 6? That would be 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract, you get 1. Next step in division, bring down. How many 5s go into 17? 5 goes into 17 3 times. 3 times 5 equals 15. Subtract, you get 2. 7 needs to come on down. How many 5s go into 27? 5 goes into 27. That would be 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract, you get 2. Ooh, Mr. Fleming, I thought you told me that we couldn't have remainders. We don't have remainders when we are doing decimals. Sometimes we have decimals that just go on forever and ever and ever. But this one does not. So what do we do now since we've got a remainder? So when we divide decimals, there's always these things called imaginary zeros is what I call them, or placeholders you've heard before. And we're just going to drop one of those down and keep going. How many 5s go into 20? 5 goes into 20 4 times. 5 times 4 equals 20. And now you can see that we got no remainder. And our answer is 1 and 354 thousandths. Now, you might be asked today to make a rounding of that digit. So let's say that we were asked to round this decimal. That's why we worked on it during mental math to the nearest tenths. So let's find the tenths place. That would be the 3. And I look always over to the right to tell the 3 what to do. Everything after that 3 is going to become the 0. So the 5, the 4 changes to 0. Before the 3 is going to stay the same. And that 5 tells the 3 what to do. So that is 5 or more. So I'm going to change the score of that 3 to a 4. Or 5 or above, I give it a shove to a 4. So that would be 1.4 or 1 and 400 thousandths. So 1 and 4 tenths is our correct answer if we would be rounding to the nearest tenth. Is that close to our estimate? It sure is, so it does check out. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. See that about is when we're going to be estimating to the nearest tenth today. Okay, let's move on to our redo. Now, if you haven't worked with a problem yet with me, I want you to try to do this one with me, okay? So let's work together here. 9 and 44 hundredths divided by 4. Let's go ahead and estimate that first. So that 9, I'm actually going to keep that 9. Divide it. Remember, estimation, we'd make things simple for us. So that 4. I'm trying to think of digits that go into 9 evenly. What are some digits that go into 9 evenly? Oh, that's close to 4. 3. That's right. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And now let's go ahead and solve the problem. I know it has to be close to 3, so let's go ahead and solve this problem here. 9 and 44 hundredths divided by 4. Most important step is what? Yes, Kylie, move up that decimal. That's right. Good job. 4 goes into 9 how many times? 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract. You get 1. Bring down your 4. Divide again. How many 4s go into 14? So that's 4, 8, 12. Yep, that would be 3. 3 times 4 equals 12. Subtract, you get 2. Bring down your 4. 4 goes into 24 how many times? That's right, Will. Good job. That is 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract, and you get 0. So for our answer here, we got an answer of 2 and 36 hundredths. Is that close to our estimate of 3? Yes, it is. Very close. So it does check out. All right. Now this problem down here is just like the one that I did for number 2. We need to round this one to the nearest tenth. Okay, so I'm going to estimate first. So 89 and 9/10 divided by 4. What would that change here? Let's think. Oh, I know. I'm going to keep that 4 the same, but I'm going to change 89.9. What are the multiples of 4? 4, 8, 12. Ooh, 8. 89. What if we changed it to 88? That's close to 89.9. How many 8s go into 4? Or how many 4s go into 8? It's still mental math. 2. 4 into 8 again. 2. So our answer should be close to 22. But remember, we are estimating. And that's what that squiggly line means. That means it's not the exact answer when we find our answer, because we are rounding. Okay, so a squiggly equal sign means it's about, or it's an estimate. It's not the exact. So let's go ahead and solve this problem, and I'll show you how. Why it is an estimation type problem. All right, so here we go, our dividend, and then our divisor. Most important step, Grace. That's right, move up that decimal. How many 4s go into 8? 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract, you get 0. Bring down your 9. How many 4s go into 9? 2 again. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract, you get 1. Bring down your next other 9. How many 4s go into 19? 4s into 19. That's going to be 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. Subtract, you get 3. Ooh, now remember what we did before. There are some imaginary zeros here. They go on forever. That's an arrow. They go on forever. So I got to bring down one of those because I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, remember. So all I need is this one here. I'm not going to continue on after this. How many 4s go into 30? Let's think here. 4 times 8 is 32, so 1 less, 7. 7 times 4 equals 28. Subtract, and you get 2. But we would have to continue on, and actually it's one more 0 that I bring down, but I don't have to do that. So I can stop right here. Why? Because now I need to estimate. What am I going to estimate here? I'm going to estimate the nearest 10th place. So I'm going to be looking at that 7, and it tells me what to do with the 4. What am I going to do with that 4 there? So 7 is 5 or above, so that 4 I'm going to give a shove. So our final answer is going to be 22 and 5/10. Check in with our estimate. Our estimate was 22. Is that close to 22 and a half or 22 and 5/10? Yes, it is. All right. So now we are done with our we do, and now it's your turn for your you do. There are some more problems on there if you want to do them, but you don't have to. But for more practice, you can try these problems out. But your you do is going to be on Seesaw. So go ahead and go back to your lessons, lesson slides, and click on your link for Seesaw, and you're going to do a dividing by whole number activity in your Seesaw journal. Remember, this is our homeroom class, our math class type one that you'll be doing. Our reflection today is here. So lesson 6-11, we are doing solve this division problem. 7 and 273 thousandths divided by 6. Now, we're not going to put this into our digital notebook reflection slides that we typically do in class. You guys know that. Instead, we're going to be doing them on our slide here. So here's the same problem. This is your lesson slides that you have, that you're on. Here's the problem for today's lesson. And where you're going to do it on yours is going to be right here for today's lesson. You're going to copy what the question is. You can snip it if you want, put it as a picture, and then tell me your response. And then don't forget, post your work. I want to see what you did today. Okay? And then I'm going to show you actually some of the answers to that math journal that we just got done doing. So if you did those extra problems, you can go ahead and check your work out. So here are those extra problems today that we didn't do all of them today, but there are some extra ones if you'd like to do those. Okay, so those are your answers. This is Mr. Fleming, lesson 6-11, dividing decimals. Let me know if you need any help with anything. Happy to help you out, okay? And hopefully this works out okay. I miss you guys a whole lot, and I hope you're doing well and your families are staying healthy. This is Mr. Fleming out. Peace out.